Welcome to my entry of the Great Guitar Build Off 2020 unofficial challenge. Today I've got a cup of tea because I need to concentrate, so let's get going. Okay, so the first thing I want to do today is to start work on the preamp for the guitar. So while the wood's settling down, it's something I can get done and get it ready. So I've got the circuit diagram here. I've got a piece of card here with the strip board design printed on it. Bit of strip board which I need to cut out, and wires and components, magnifying glass and soldering iron. So I think I've got everything to get going. Let's have a quick sip of tea and get started. Before I start work, I just want to explain why I'm building a preamplifier into the travel guitar. Now, if you've got an acoustic guitar like this with a piezo pickup under the bridge that can be plugged into an amplifier, you'll find there's an amplifier on the side, or a preamp built into the guitar, with usually an EQ and a volume control. Now these are quite big units and it's too big to fit into the back of the travel guitar. In essence, what these are doing are matching the impedance of the piezo with the input impedance of the amplifier. And so the aim of the game with my preamp is simply to do that. Now, a piezo pickup has a lot of very high frequencies in it, so I use a low pass filter or a high cut filter to cut out some of those high frequencies. But I don't go too far because I use the iPad and the EQs within Cubasis or GarageBand to actually just fine tune the tone of the guitar. So I'm not too worried about having controls on the guitar for the EQ. And it would take up an awful lot of space if I did. So that's the reason why I'm building a preamp in. Now the advantage of having a preamp into the guitar is that you can also use it to boost the output from the pickups. And one of the problems with guitar pickups, and particularly with the volume control, is when you turn the volume control down, it dulls the sound of the pickup. Now if you've got a preamp in it, it keeps those high tones there, it keeps the brightness from the pickup. So even though I don't use really expensive pickups, I believe I get a really good sound from them because of this preamp. So that's a quick explanation of why I'm doing it. Now I just need to get on and do it. I use this copper strip board, or Vero board as I used to know it, to do the circuit because it's easy to prototype things on and it saves the expense of getting a printed circuit board made. I actually used to make my own printed circuit boards, etch them out, but it's such a messy job, it really is not worth it. So this is ideal. Now the problem with this sort of board is that it's really hard to know where all the components should go. So there's a little application which is a free download on the PC called VCAD, which will allow you to design your circuit and print it out at life size. Now I actually print it out on brown card because it looks neater. So I stick this on the back of the strip board and that gives me a guide to the components. Now to line it up, I've put through a 1mm drill bit and I'm just going to poke that through one of the holes at the top here. So that will align that up there. I shall put a piece of masking tape on there just to hold it, and now I'm going to make another hole in one of the other components down at the bottom here and line that up down there. That's that. So now I know that that is lined up with the holes underneath, so I'm just going to stick that down with some Pritt stick. I've just put some card underneath it so I don't get the Pritt all over the circuit board. Here we go. Should do the job. Here we just fold that over. just check the alignment. That looks good there. That looks good there. Now, while that's drying, all I need to do is now go around with this little drill bit and make all the holes where all the components are. It's just occurred to me that a little hand tool might be helpful here. So I've got an old piece of dowel. I've got the 1mm drill. I'm just going to drill a hole in the centre of that and put the 1mm drill in there. And hopefully that should be quite a nice little tool to make these holes. It's not very straight, but it doesn't really matter. Certainly easier. Because I could probably do it with a Dremel as well, but hey, this is okay. One of the reasons for using brown card, apart from the fact it looks quite nice with a printed circuit on it, is you can see where all the holes are if you hold it up against a white piece of paper, and hopefully see the holes that you've missed. Now I think I've got them all. What I need to do now is just to break some of the copper strips where those X's are on the other side. Now to do that I use this tool, which is just a brad point bit put into a holder with a handle, an old knife holder. There's an X there. I'm going to put the drill bit through the hole there, so I know it's underneath that hole. So hopefully it's that bit there. I'm just going to go in and twist that copper away. Okay, I'll check that with a multimeter. Okay, so there's a break above that hole there, so I'm going to put that in there, and I know it's the hole directly above it. Many a time I've made the hole in the wrong place, but hey, just tidy that up with a knife. Okay, so I've got my trusty old multimeter out. Let's see if there's a connection between those 2 points that should be broken. So that's what it should look like if there's a connection. And if I join that one with that one, nothing. And if I join that one with that one, nothing. So I've got a break. Okay, so I'm going to start assembling the components onto this board. Now the first thing I'm going to do is put any connecting wires in. I'm just using this white string, single stranded cable for that. Okay, so that's all the connecting wires in. I'll just solder those in now. Now, before I start soldering, I've got some of this a flux pen. It's quite good just to paint a bit of this on because it does help. Just cleans off the copper. And always forget to do it. There we go. That should do the job. Flux pen is soaked through, but hey, it doesn't matter. One of those things. Okay, so the next thing I do is the resistors, and it's written on there what the resistors should be, so I can identify them. So I'm going to put the 22k resistors in first of all. The resistors done, and I've now got some capacitors to put in. I'll put the small ones in first. So these are 2.2 microfarads, I believe. 2.2 microfarads. That goes in there. I've got a 10 microfarad capacitor, which is going to go across between the plus and the ground rails. Okay, now a couple of 100 nanofarad capacitors. Next I'm going to put in the transistors. Now then, these transistors are JFET transistors and the number is 2N5457. They're not actually the transistors that are recommended by Mr. Tillman on his website. This is Donald Tillman's preamp design, but I couldn't get the ones he suggested, but these are the nearest ones I could get. So, and they seem to work okay. That's got all the components in there. What I need to put now is these trimmers. Okay, so that's all the components soldered onto the board. Now what I need to do now is just check all the tracks on the back there, because I think there may be a couple of instances where the solder has gone over 2 tracks. So first off, I go over with a magnifying glass and just check to see visually if there's any crossover between the strips. A couple of joints there which don't look particularly brilliant, so I'm just going to resolder those. Just that one bit there. So I'm going to just try and break that up with a knife. I think that's going to be okay. Check it with the multimeter. Okay, so that's what a connection is going to look like. And let's just check these pins of the transistor. Right, so there's no connection between those two, the middle and the end, and there's no connection between those two. Well, I fully accept this is probably not how you should cut a circuit board out, but if it works, it's good enough for me. And there we have it. So let me give you a quick tour of my test harness, which is a bit primitive, but it seems to do the job. Okay, first off, here is the board that I've just finished soldering. I actually missed a wire off, that white wire there, which was joining 2 ground rails together. I missed off, which is a bit of a problem, and I have to update the diagram for that, but never mind, I've fixed that. Anyway, so that is then connected to this bit of breadboard. Now there's an input jack, and that's coming from my guitar, which is over here, and this is the second prototype I built. So it's got a piezo disc under the bridge but no amplifier inside, so there's an unamplified signal coming through here. That goes through this grey wire into there, and that's fed into the input on the board. I'm just using these very simple cable connectors to connect the wires into the board. Then the output comes from this brown wire through there, and that goes through into a very simple box, which is just connecting the system here with the iPad. And so when I strum the guitar, I'm getting a signal come through. Now there's a lot of noise coming through as well, but that's to be expected because there's no shielding on that. I'm not going to worry too much about tuning it correctly at the moment. I've got some trim pots on the board there to tune the amplifier, but I'm not going to do that at the moment. I'm now going to test the electric side of things. Okay, so to test the electric pickup stage of the preamp, I'm just going to undo those. I'll take the battery off actually first of all. So undo that and undo this. I'll take that off. Okay, so now the electric output is that one. So this is just the stage of the amplifier the electric pickups going through, and the input is that one there. It was a bit of a fiddle, as most of these things are. So I've connected that up with that with that. Plug these wires in, plug it in. That's the electric plugged in. So I'm just going to switch it to electric pickup, and yeah, I'm getting a very strong signal coming through that. Okay, so I've soldered up my 2-stage preamp for this travel guitar, and I've run it through my rather primitive test harness, but both of the stages seem to be working okay. So the next stage will be obviously to put this in the guitar once we've built it and connect it all up to the pickups. And I'll be going through that process when we get to that stage. A couple of people asked me about the schematic for this preamp. I would encourage you to go and look at J. Donald Tillman's site, and I'll put a link in the description below, because this is his discrete FET preamp design, and he really does describe how it works and the modifications you can make to it, so it's worthwhile having a look at that. I will put a screenshot of the schematic on this video for you to have a look at, and I'll also put some wiring diagrams up as we come to them in future videos. Anyway, I think that's probably enough for me today. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to spend too long on it today, so I'm going to wrap up this video. So thank you very much again for watching it. I hope you enjoyed this content, and I look forward to seeing you in day 5 of this intrepid adventure. Thank you very much.